This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Well, welcome again to this exciting series of episodes that we are covering on empowering women. And I think it's a beautiful intersection between empowering women and also a special series of episodes that we do on founders and CEOs. So since Renate is also a founder and being a women founder, she's representing all those women who kind of have ideas in their mind, but might feel reluctant to come out of their comfort zone and actually execute their ideas. So I think this episode can be a good motivation for all those women out there, all those women founders out there who might be feeling a bit low or who might not be feeling confident enough to work out the challenges that they're facing as a new founder. And also for any new founders, I think this can be a good episode to discuss upon. So Renate, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience? We have met each other before for a coffee, but it would be good if the audience knows a bit more about you in your own words.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, George and Saurabh. I'm excited to chat with you both today. And as you said as well, I'm a co-founder of Brownie, which is an action-based technology platform that helps businesses become more sustainable and gives them guided recommendations on what they should be doing, gives them tangible actions on how they can take their first or their next best step, and then actually connects them to companies that can help support them in that journey. And then we track the whole thing in a fun, always up-to-date sustainability dashboard. But my background has always been in sustainability for the past 10, 12, 15 odd years. Started my career as a civil engineer, a civil/environmental engineer, and really got my hands dirty in the sustainability space, predominantly around the environmental engineering, boots on the ground work there. And then after that, I left and worked in New York City, where I got even more deeper experience in the environmental engineering space in New York City. And that's a whole nother podcast. Working on construction sites in New York City, I could talk to you for hours about that one. That one was very interesting, and it really sharpened the person who I am and my business acumen and how to be tough in business and be open and mindful to other experiences as well. After that, I went and worked for the Robin Hood Foundation, which is New York City's largest private foundation that aims to measurably and sustainably lift New Yorkers out of poverty with data and metrics and robust thinking and assessments. So that's where I really cut my teeth with the social side of sustainability. I was there for a couple of years and really got a better understanding of what entrenched poverty looked like and the need for private and public partnerships there to help move the needle in that space sustainably and measurably, of course. And then went back to my sustainability consulting route. I went to work for an organization called Business for Social Responsibility, or BSR, and they are a boutique international sustainability consulting firm that advises the Fortune 1000 companies on their ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And so I sat squarely in the environmental space there, really helping developing materiality assessments, decarbonisation strategies, aligning with the alphabet soup of sustainability reporting requirements and the like. Like I said at the start, I lived in New York for about 12 years and then moved my small family back to Sydney, Australia, where I got connected to the other three founders of Brownie. And it was really interesting that they were tackling this problem of sustainability from a more micro level, from the SME side, the small to medium business side, and trying to get them engaged and passionate about becoming more sustainable for a multitude of different reasons. And so I jumped on board. I joined them as their fourth and final co-founder, and now I'm here talking to you.
Awesome. That's a really full-on introduction. You often hear about introductions, but you already introduced and told a lot of things in that little snippet of what we have heard of who Renate really is and how your life has been in terms of your idea and how you came up with your idea. So what sort of challenges have you faced when you were coming up with that idea or after you launched that idea? And were there any ways that you tackled those challenges?
Absolutely. So when I did meet my co-founders, Guido, Dr. Jill, and Kate, the idea of Brownie was already quite baked. You'll notice I'll use a few cooking and baking analogies in this chat. I mean, I have to. I've got companies called Brownie. The idea was quite quite baked, and I thought it was a really interesting problem, like I said, because at my work with BSR, I was dealing with the Fortune 1000 companies and how to motivate their supply chain to start becoming more sustainable. So now having the opportunity to help the supply chain, which are the SMEs, become more sustainable was a really interesting problem. I think the challenge that extends past gender for me is that, the lifelong question of, are you good enough? Can you do this? Does the world need you to do this? That imposter syndrome, I think, is really real. I think that also extends across new founders and just people in certain roles, but like, can you do this? Are you smart enough to do that? And I questioned myself at the start. I still question myself now, like, what are you doing? Because there is no playbook. There is no template. If you work for a large organization, there are reports that you can lean on and use as guidelines and templates, and you just change the name here and there and you tweak it a bit. But there's already like a skeleton you can use. Whereas being a founder in a company, you have to do it all from scratch. You have to figure out your marketing strategy. You have to figure out, your product market fit. Who are your customers? What problem are you solving? How do you speak about this, articulately and eloquently? How do you find these customers? What's the business model? So everything you have to do from scratch yourself. And so I think that's a really interesting challenge to really push yourself to step out of the norm and do something really cool and exciting and impactful. But then you do stop, or at least I stopped, and be like, what am I doing here? It's like the emperor with no clothes. One day someone's going to be like, what is Renate doing here? So I think that's probably the first challenge, is to really like question whether or not you can do it. And then also, being a founder, there's the uncertainty of, financial security and all that type of stuff that the comforts of a normal job. You get a job, you get your contract, you sign your health insurance and your benefits and your perks and your salary and all that type of stuff. Whereas being a founder, that's all unknown. It's all out there in the ether. That some stage will happen potentially if you're successful or not. So I think those two are the biggest challenges. Like, can I do this myself? Am I smart enough and capable and confident enough to do this myself? And then, what about the security blanket that isn't there at the start with a startup as a founder? So I'd say they're the two biggest interesting challenges.
Yeah. Well, I think those are really big challenges, Renee, that you have talked about is self-belief. I think having self-belief in what you are going to do is a big thing. And we have talked to a lot of founders on this podcast. People who don't have self-belief can't even start an idea or can't even move forward after a few months. So I think that's one of the biggest things which even George would agree on. And the other thing is handling your financial situation. So if you don't have emergency fund, or if you don't have enough funds and you're just going out chasing a new business idea, might be a bit hard and very unknown, which is, again, that's a big challenge to face initially as a founder. What are your thoughts on that, George?
Yeah. So one of the questions I've got for you, Renee, is that so in the formation of the business, there's the old adage of too many cooks spoil the broth.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is important when you're putting together? Do you think it's important of melding all the ingredients, or do you think it's the actual baking of the cookie?
Oh, I like that. That's excellent. The baking of the brownie would have been a little bit better there, George, but you got there. I think it could be a combination of the both. For us, our brownie is co-founded by 4 people, and I think it's really interesting to note that all 4 of us bring a different skill set, a different personality, a different experience to the brownie team, and we all complement each other perfectly. Our CEO has been an entrepreneur for 20 odd years and led $1 million businesses for decades. Our CTO/CPO was a resident at CSIRO. She's an astrophysicist. She's a data analyst. She's a very, very smart person in the algorithm tech AI space. And then we have another co-founder who's a sustainability gun. And she's been the CSO, the Chief Sustainability Officer for ASX listed companies. She knows the regulatory space really deeply. She's been in this space for almost 20 something years. And then you have myself that kind of ties it all together with the project management experience, the sustainability experience, the business development space. So we all kind of complement each other we give each other space to know that you're the expert in your field, and we defer to you in what you need to do. I'm never going to go tell Dr. Jill what she should be doing on the platform, because that's her, specialty. Same with Guido. Like, Guido's the one that's running the business side of things. So we each have our own lane, but we are receptive and open to comments and feedback. We do work well to each other. We listen to each other. And we also just have different styles of working. I'm very much a let's go, say yes to everything, let's figure it out. Whereas the other two are a little bit more measured in their approach. And, yes, Renate, we can do that, but let's just stop and think about what that means, and, how easy is if and and all that type of thing. So I think bringing together different types of personalities, experiences, and traits is really important. And I also think you need to spend a little bit of time with each other before you do decide to, form a business together. I was talking to Dr. Jill, Kate, and Guido for months and months and months before they asked me to come on board as a founder. And I think that's really important, because you really want to make sure that, you get on, you respect each other, and you are bringing the right skills and expertise together. They're saying, everyone told me this when you start a business together, you negotiate your divorce up front. So you really need to figure out what you're doing and who you are before you join together. Because if this business is successful, like you're in this with these people every day for 10 something years. So you really want to make sure that you like them, you respect them, you get on, and you fill each other's cups, and you plug the holes that the other person doesn't have. So I think the team is very important.
I think you're on mute, George.
So was the vision originally yours, and they all bought into your blue sky and then brought their particular skill sets? Or was it your vision that joined up with the other visions, and then the lot of you said, okay, this is what we want to create? Who's the visionary? The
visionary was Guido. He has, like I said, he's been running businesses for 20 odd years, and he's always used sustainability as a mindset to improve the business financially that he's run. And let me step back and unpack what that means. So, like, data shows, everyone understands now that becoming more sustainable is good for business. If you become a more sustainable company, you attract a higher market share, you win more awards, you get ahead of the regulations, you're more favorable than your competitors. And sustainability could mean anything from, switching to renewable power. So you reduce your electrical bills because you've got more efficient appliances, or, you're using a different source of power, or you have a modern slavery statement. So you mitigate any potential risks that you might have in your supply chain or your business operations, or you have cybersecurity system implemented in your business. So therefore you mitigate those risks. That's all sustainability. That's part of environmental, social, and governance. And so what Guido's done for the past 20 odd years is really implemented that business practice and that mindset of becoming more sustainable to increase the financial performances of the businesses that he's run. And he looked around and he said, why isn't everybody doing this? Like, it just makes sense from a fiduciary's perspective for businesses to be operated this way. So he set about trying to make it really easy and engaging and fun for the smaller businesses. The businesses I consulted with at BSR, have deep pockets. They can pay for a consulting firm like BSR to help them do this work. But the smaller side, they don't. Consultants are expensive, and there's no real tool that helps them. So that's why we started to develop branding to really appeal to the smaller market, to give them a tool that's easy and simple and engaging to use. And then I was kind of the last one to come on board, and it was really interesting because my experience matched what the objective and the mission of Brownie was quite well, because I had that high level sustainability experience from the other side, from the stakeholder side, and now using my knowledge and my project management and my my grit working on the construction sites of New York City to kind of tie it all together and pull the team together. So I was very much the last one in, but my experience matched incredibly well with what the team was trying to do. Which I think, to your point, George, is very rare. Most founders actually are the ones that have the idea that's been percolating in their head for quite some time, whereas, I had the experience that kind of filled that void well.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges, Renee, is the validation of your idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you come up with an idea and you're trying to validate that idea, I see a lot of startups losing hope.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of founders then, either losing hope or losing their path. What's the next step? So how do we validate this idea? How do we take it to our potential customers? Or they might just survey a sample of customers and they think, oh, this is not a good idea. I don't think it's worth pursuing forward. So instead of refining the idea, instead of taking the feedback in depth, they might lose track of that.
Yeah.
How did you tackle that problem when you came up with an idea and you're trying to validate it? How did you validate your idea and made sure that it's actually going to be a really good business idea?
Absolutely. The short answer is we haven't. We're still doing that, and I think that you need to be agile and fluid in business to understand that you're always speaking to your customers. You're always trying to build and be fluid enough to move to the needs of the customers, because the problem that you're trying to solve is their problem, not yours. But right at the start, when Brownie was in pilot phase, we went out and spoke to, and we still do to this day, our customers. We speak to the small and medium businesses. We speak to the council groups. We speak to anyone that touches the business space to understand what are the problems that you're facing. Why aren't you doing things around sustainability? What's holding back? What's the biggest burning issue that you're trying to solve? And really making sure that we're plugged into our customers' needs to make sure that the Brownie product can actually meet the demands. But I don't think that's something that you do once and then it's done. I think it's an iterative process that you have to continue to have your finger on the pulse and continue to work towards. Otherwise you do lose track of what it is you're trying to do. So we're still very much in that phase, from speaking to all our customers, we are learning what they want and are trying to adapt to the Brownie platform to make sure that we are actually meeting their need. But it's not done by no means. And like I said at the start, I think this is something that's very important. You need to focus on it. You constantly need to be asking the people using your product, whatever that might be, is this meeting your needs? Where are we falling short? What is missing? How can we better support you? What problem are you solving? All those questions really need to be asked, frequently to get on top of that. But it's hard. It's very hard. And it's also demoralizing. You think you got something really good and someone says, I don't want to use this. And it's you sit there again, that imposter syndrome comes back in. It's like, what have I done? Is this the right thing? Should I be doing something different? So it's one of the biggest challenges, the self-doubt and the fit.
Absolutely. This might be a question for George and Renee both. So I think George asked you regarding the co-founder thing. What sort of traits you find in co-founders, or how do you really match the true co-founders that you'll be linking up with? Do you really need co-founders? That should be a question. Or do you think that I have got certain skills and I want somebody to complement those skills, which I don't have, so I need a co-founder? What's the reason we are looking for a co-founder, and why do startups look for co-founders? That should be a good way to look at it. George.
So the answer to the first part, do you need one? No, not necessarily. You can start something on your own, but if you don't have a founder with you, a co-founder with you, then as good as you think you are, you're not. So I know how good I am, and I'm not afraid to tell people. And I know how good I'm not, and I'm not afraid to ask for help from people, right? So as a business coach and advisory service, I work with a lot of people that just are a single person running their own business. They've created an idea and that. But then they contact me and I work with them every couple of weeks and we work on the things that they're not good at. And if it's something that I don't think I'm qualified enough for, we then find somebody. Personally, I find it easier to work with a couple of people. I've been in corporate world. I don't like corporate world. I don't like the morals and the ethos of corporate world. So to be a co-founder with 5 other people, as you know, Sarab, if I don't like you, I don't work with you. So if I don't like all 4, I'm not in. So it's easier for me to be who I am, what I do, and then find people that fit in. On the other side of the coin, if you're a creative, you're probably not a practical as much, and you're probably not an organisational as much, and you're certainly not a financial as much. If you're a chartered accountant, with all due respect to any chartered accountants listening today, they're not the biggest blue sky people. They're not the visionaries of, oh, we can go out and take on the world. No, they want to know facts and figures. So those 2 entities or those 2 personality traits, they work very well together, because one says, yeah, let's go out and do it. And the other one says, hang on, show me the money. So I think it depends on who you are as to what you need. I have many people contact me on a daily or weekly basis. I can increase your traffic flow. I can give you more customers. I've been in sales and marketing for 40 something years. I don't need that. But if somebody came along and said, I can teach you more about the psychology of this, or the how NLP goes to this next level, for those that don't know, neuro-linguistic programming, well, that would be valuable to me. So I think as a founder, you have to say, do I need somebody, and what do I need them to bring? Very quick story. Two brothers ran a plastic molding company. Both of them could do the whole thing. One of them said, I really like being in the office and doing all the negotiation and all the admin and all of that, but I'll do the other. The other one said, I love working on the machines and doing all that. I can do that, but I love this. Very, very successful business. The business was sold to two brothers. And they thought, well, if they're going to do it, I can do it. But both of them wanted to be in the office. Both of them wanted to be outside. Both of them got into fights. It didn't work. So same concept, different mindset.
Yeah. And I think that reinforces what I said before. When our team came together, we all have different experiences and different skill sets that I think complement each other nicely. Like I couldn't do what Dr. Jill and Guido do, and they couldn't do what I do. So we all bring together to the table something unique. And I also think it's just nice from a support system as well. Like the founder journey is challenging. It's isolating. You're at home by yourself. Like it is nice to have co-founders with you to share the journey and just to chat with and pep you up when you need it to and everything like that. So from even a personal side of things, it's just nice to have someone else going through the same thing that you are together.
Yeah. Maybe now let's get to the business end of it, Renee. We talk about startup. We talk about starting a business so we can, of course, work on the idea, but also get some money out of it. So there are a lot of challenges in that. What's the biggest challenge you're currently facing? Because you just told that you're still going through the validation part. Have you kind of looked into the different revenue streams, or is that something which you look at after your validation?
Yeah, so I think the validation piece is an ongoing piece. I don't think it's ever going to be done. We definitely do have validation from our customers in the market that we're onto something. So we're on the right track, but I don't think that it will ever end. I think we'll constantly need to make sure that each phase of what we're doing with Brownie is validated. So just wanted to stress that piece. We have just been accepted to the Energy Lab accelerator, which is super exciting. So it's our first funding stream, which is really cool to do that with an accelerator such as Energy Lab. We've been part of their charge program for the past year, and it's a great network of people, mentors, advisors, founders, experts in the space. So it's a really nice way to get that influx of cash that we need, but also to be tapped into that network to help us, to grow and develop and to scale as much as we possibly can. And then we'll look to fundraise probably towards the end of the year. Fundraising is challenging. You have to have the same conversations over and over and over again. You get asked the same questions over and over again. You have a very short window to pitch your idea and bring people on board. It's fun. It's definitely fun. We did start this a little while ago and then paused and focused on building the platform and the product so we could go to investors with something that we have. And we do feel like we're in a space now where we have an up and running platform. We have users on the platform. We have our first investors from Energy Lab. So we're building all the right traction to get the momentum that we need to go out and talk to fundraisers. So that's going to be fun. Stay tuned for that piece.
Yeah, that's very exciting. How did you go with finding out the investors? Because again, finding out the right investors who align with your vision, or
and values,
who are in the same path as you and who can really trust you in your journey. I think that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the benefit of being in Australia is the investment pool is quite small. Like I said, in New York, it's a different beast, but in Sydney, in Australia, it's quite small. I do feel that we have been communicating with most VCs, family offices, angel networks now for a couple of months. We send them a investor newsletter, every 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to get them updated on what Brownie is doing. So we're on their radar. We're telling them about our wins. We also are very open and transparent about, things that we're struggling with or things that we could improve on, because I think the trust is really important as you go to seek investment, to make sure that you're not just, blue skied, everything's great, but actually understand and talk about what you're learning and where you fell short and why. Like I said, I think that builds trust, and an investor relationship is obviously long-term as well. They support you from the start, hopefully all the way through. But it's just communication, keeping them updated and being open and transparent. And then, like you said, making sure that we find people that are aligned with what we're trying to do and our values. We're a values-driven company, so really making sure that, people that we bring onto the cap table support and share our mission and our values. It's very important.
I think that's a very interesting point that you've shared. Having a trust in your mission and values. A lot of the times, the startup founders, they're not able to articulate what their mission is or what their values are.
Yeah.
So I think this is a question for George as well, because George deals with a lot of founders, a lot of startups, a lot of small businesses, mid-tier businesses. He coaches a lot of businesses as well. What do you find is one of the biggest problems, George, when it comes to articulating your mission and values as a company when you talk to them?
I, from experience, believe that investors and people, venture capitalists, whatever you want to call them, I believe that they generally fall into one of two categories, and they tend to have one of two views of the world. One view is blue sky, and the other one is balance sheet. Very rare do they have both. And so when you're pitching, you need to understand which view they have so that you give them the right information.
Yeah.
One of my business associates is all about show me the money. I'm interested in that, but I'm far more interested in the why. And I'm far more interested in how does this help society? What does this actually do? Okay. So quite often founders or inventors, they get all carried away and excited about what they've got. And they're going to go and talk to some guy. Your project is going to return 16.4% and project X is 17.5%. You're already in trouble. They don't care. Now, if it's all about helping humanity, and if your invention is delivering water to people in Africa that can't get water, then that's the different person.
Yeah.
But the one that's that has a balance sheet view of life, you need to be able to say, look, we're doing all of this and we're delivering water and all of that, but this is the monetary payoff and this is that. And quite often people talk to a balance sheet investor as though they're blue sky, and a blue sky as though they're balance sheet. And I think you need to know what their view of the world is and deliver in the way that they can interpret it.
Yeah. And you need to find those impact investors, ones, to your point, George, that are interested in the blue sky and the mission, the objective. Obviously, they still want to make money. Everyone does. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But understand that, that this is the mission and the objective of the business that will make money, but maybe not on the same time scale as, as they wanted to see. So, yeah.
Great. I think we've had a great discussion. I won't keep you for long, Renee, because I understand that you're traveling. And thank you so much for your time today. You've shared some really insightful points on the episode.
Awesome.
I'm sure people can get so much value out of this short and powerful episode, and the introduction that you gave, that 2-minute introduction. I think that was one of the best ones I've heard for so long.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Sharab. And thanks for having me both, Sharab and George. It was nice to chat to you.
It was great to meet up with you.
This is an Ultimate Global Podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.